नमस्ते, हेलो, आदाब, सलाम, सत श्री अकाल। आप सुन रहे हैं ऑल इंडिया रेडियो रेनबो एफएम 101.9. As you know, All India Radio brings you amazing personalities who are an inspiration to us. And today, I have someone in front of me who is in our studios to share his knowledge and to share his expertise. And हम रूबरू होने वाले हैं, उनसे बहुत सारी बातें करने वाले हैं, लेकिन है कौन? वेल, वी हैव श्री संजीव कुमार जी राइट हियर, who is very popularly known as a spiritual scientist or spiritual architect. Well, Sanjiv Kumar ji is the president of Ramashram Satsang Mathura Inc. and it also has the United States of America chapter. And Sanjiv Kumar ji is a meditation practitioner with over 40 years of experience who's been facilitating guided meditation sessions in America, across the United States of America, and also in India since 20 years. Well, having an amazing career, who's in a leadership position in a corporate world and also teaching guided meditation to thousands of people. Let's know what is spirituality all about. And well, there are a lot of questions, of course. Let's first welcome him to the show. Welcome, Sanjiv Kumar ji. Namaskar.
Namaskar, and I'm really happy to be here, and welcome everyone who's listening. Thank you for the time.
Well, it is wonderful to have you in our studios today. And I was just reading and telling our listeners also about how beautifully you have a beautiful journey in corporate world where you work as well as you are teaching spirituality and guided meditation. How is this balance all about, and what is spirituality for us to understand?
So I think my grandfather in 1930 started a whole spiritual revolution through the non-profit he started, Ramashram Satsang Mathura.
Yes.
And I was fortunate, and I was born in this family, Satsang family. The focus here is that you should do all your worldly duties, be it computer science, family, bringing up the kids.
Right.
But do not forget that there is another goal that we all ought to have, is to do inner cleansing. And what my grandfather used to call the target state should be the land of peace.
Yes.
Ocean of peace. So you should have so much abundance of peace that you are at peace and everybody around you. Because of that abundance, you share and everybody around you is at peace. If we all do that, world will be a more peaceful place.
Probably the ultimate goal is what everyone wants is peace.
Yes.
Right. So how is this balance that, as you said, how do you strike this balance and understanding?
So I think somewhere along the way, there have been, like if we look in the history, there were lots of sages and saints and accomplished people who accomplished higher states of consciousness and enlightenment while doing the family duties and being in a family and things like that.
Right.
But there is also another process where you give up everything, leave the world, and in the sense of, family and work and all that, and go to the Himalayas or the monastery or give your life to church.
So it's either the extreme, either you leave everything or you get into the worldly.
And that kind of causes this confusion. So my grandfather's number one focus was that everybody, not a selected few, should, try to achieve this ultimate state of, the land of peace. So if that has to happen, then we need to have a process where you continue to work, you continue to do worldly duties, and still progress towards this ultimate goal of becoming. So my grandfather's guru, who actually Modi ji gave a 150-year commemorative coin this year.
Wonderful.
And so very, very happy about that. So my grandfather followed his guru and practiced this process where 1 hour you give to yourself and to spiritual progress, and 23 hours you do everything else you do. And
Just
through-
1 hour will help
Yes,
us to
yes.
attain the balance.
And that's how I think I have been able to continue my job and still progress spiritually to a point where I am giving back what I have learned for last 2 decades. I travel, but obviously, keeping my work a
Right.
priority.
Right.
My kids and everything else is also a priority.
Right.
But then I still find time where I can share, and I do think that this process is very, very important for all of us,
Right.
and we all should progress. And because my father, my father and grandfather figured out techniques to do
Yes.
that while being, doing your worldly duties, you could do this progress. I feel the world should know it.
Yes, and probably everybody has one question. Even though they have everything, they have a great job, they have money, but मन की शांति कहीं कम हो गई है या शांति नहीं है. We're all looking for something. So yes, we will talk more in conversation with Shri Sanjiv Kumar ji. He's a meditation practitioner, and yes, there's a lot to learn right here. We're gonna have interesting conversation. Stay tuned. This is All India Radio Rainbow FM 101.9. I'm Jayashree, and yes, हमारे साथ है हमारे आज के स्पेशल गेस्ट श्री संजीव कुमार जी, जो है एक मेडिटेशन प्रैक्टिशनर. ही इज अ मेडिटेशन प्रैक्टिशनर and also very popularly known as spiritual scientist because he has been learning and teaching since 40 years. Meditation and teaching, spirituality, and helping people to understand what it is exactly. And right here we have him in our studios. Welcome back, sir. And there's one question that was actually मेरे जहन में था कि आपने BSc फिजिक्स केमिस्ट्री मैथमेटिक्स में किया है, एंड फिर आपने बीटेक किया है नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी त्रिचुनापल्ली में, त्रिची में, एंड कंप्यूटर साइंस से बहुत ही लगाव है और आपका करियर उस तरफ से स्टार्ट हुआ है. एंड लेकिन एक तरफ यू ग्रू अप इन अ फैमिली विच बिलीव्ड इन मेडिटेशन एंड स्पिरिचुअलिटी. सो what was the main aspect where you thought that striking this balance is very important, and how did it just happen?
So if I go back, I think spirituality and the satsang atmosphere at home helped me to be grounded from day one. Mm-hmm. And when I started my job, I think I would tell everyone that meditative practices of whatever kind, they help you to concentrate better, to focus better, to make better decisions. You even, feel better. I call it inner happiness.
Yes.
If we increase our inner happiness, so while there are toxic surroundings and toxic people, how do we keep ourselves at peace
Right.
and safe from that negativity?
Right.
Is that when you have inner strength and when you have the ability to deflect the negativity that is coming from outside because you're full of peace and positive energy.
True.
Right?
True.
So all that helped me throughout my younger age. My grandfather's process has been helping millions of people in India and abroad, and I think that helped me to be centered, to be a bit happier. And I think somewhere along the way, my father, who never really pushed me into this, mm-hmm. It was just because the atmosphere was there when he was going places. As a kid, I would follow him.
But you took the inspiration from everything he did. You watched him.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So it was in the environment.
Right.
And till I was about 40, I think it was for my own advantage.
Okay.
To be happier, to be more grounded, to be, just use those strengths for yourself.
True.
But somewhere, when my father passed away, just before that, few things happened, and I felt that I need to share this
With the world.
and not because I want anyone to, follow this process.
Right.
I just feel that I need to tell everyone that there is something that can help you to be in a better place, to be a better human being,
Right.
to make yourself better, and then your environment better.
Right.
My parents did it, my grandfather and my grandmother did it, my uncles did it. But what actually inspires me is that it's well documented, it's well researched, but very few people really follow to achieve that goal of that ocean of peace. How many people really are full of abundant positive energy and peace? What I found was that the process I was following takes a person to the heights that is not very common.
Okay.
That's what inspires me to share more and more, because maybe, one of those will get inspired to be where I have seen my parents and grandparents and
Indeed.
leaders in Satsang to be there.
So in the ashram as well, and everywhere you see people getting inspired and their life changing with these techniques that you mentioned.
It's a transformational thing. And
Yes.
my grandfather never made an ashram. He actually started Ramashram, Satsang, Mathura. And this organization does, inner peace and spiritual events throughout India and abroad. And it's a family.
Right.
So
it's a
he
family.
just created like a bond of love. He and everybody else I have seen who has been serving the mission, unconditional, pure love for everyone.
Indeed.
He never asked anyone like, where are you coming from,
And the
etc.
family is growing right now, identifying
Absolutely.
those and techniques and utilizing
Yep.
them in their lives to make their lives better. How was the pandemic time? And there were a lot of changes, and I think after pandemic time, there were a lot of focus on mental health. And everybody in the world, I'm very sure that they had one advice for everybody: meditate. Keep your calm and try to find yourself, because there was so much of chaos and pain. Of course, we all lost at somebody or the other that we know. So how was this challenging time around you?
So interesting question you have asked, because you're absolutely right. It was a devastating time for the world.
Yes.
In 2002, I got inspired to use online video conferencing, like way back when, right? 2002, I started experimenting with it, and everybody used to say, what has online process to do with spirituality? And I was just inspired. I felt that the leaders who are traveling, and travel is not easy.
Yes.
So I wanted to give the leaders the platform to spread this message virtually as well, and to support that whole process farther. And lo and behold, the pandemic came.
Right.
And from a few hundred people online, we went to like several thousand people online. And you won't believe, 10 people in the family, all doing morning and evening
Sadhana.
satsang and meditation during pandemic time, right from their home.
Right.
I think, it was a divine blessing.
I'm sure you would have come across examples where you've seen people evolving and being happy. So
See, sometimes it's you need sustenance through acquiring positive energy through these processes.
Yes.
And I think during pandemic, the need was really great. And I think, that really worked, especially for India, where a lot of people were not able to go out of the houses for a while.
Right.
And just being able to find positivity right where they are, was a real boom, real positive. I'm really glad that I got inspired to do something like that, and it really worked for lots and lots of people.
Wonderful. And talking about taking words from your conversation where you're talking about inner peace. We will know more about it. We will know more about some of the beautiful instances that I would request you to share with us to understand more of how important it is for us to lead a beautiful and a happy life by keeping a balance. वेलकम बैक. आप सुन रहे हैं ऑल इंडिया रेडियो रेनबो FM 101.9. रेनबो के साथ है लाइफ रंगीन. वेल, लाइफ तो हम सब रंगीन लाइफ चाहते हैं, लेकिन बहुत सारी ऐसी बातें होती है जो दूसरे कुछ कह जाते हैं और हमें बुरा लगता है, या हम ऐसा कुछ कर जाते हैं और हमें लगता है ये हमने सही नहीं किया, और इसी जद्दोजहद में, इसी सोच में हम कहीं खो जाते हैं. And I think it's all about finding inner peace. And today, right here, we are in conversation with Sri Sanjiv Kumar ji, who has been guiding thousands and thousands of people towards spirituality. And we also call him the spiritual architect indeed. Sanjiv ji, जैसे हम बात कर रहे थे as we were in conversation, there is a wonderful quote that Guru Maharaj ji, your grandfather, has said, which is, bring inner happiness into your life, for it is a divine virtue. But कैसे किया जाए? How do we do this? How do we find our inner happiness?
So one thing about inner happiness is that, most of the time we are seeking something, mostly material stuff, some possessions, some status, and that we think will provide us happiness. So what happens when things happen that way? We are happy, but when it doesn't happen that way, we're not so happy. And in this oscillation between happy and unhappy states, the peace is elusive, right? So inner happiness increases when we are happy without any such material things being attached to it. You just feel happy. So there are times when you feel happy, then you feel unhappy, then you settle in a place. I would call that place as the inner happiness level. What Guru Maharaj Ji said was that through meditative practices, increase that level of inner happiness level, and the more you increase that, you will be happier without any external, situations, people, etc. So as your inner happiness level increases, your peacefulness as well as happiness just is there, right? So we need to try to achieve that state.
Right. And for this, meditation is essential.
And I think what I would say is that most of the time, people think that with age we become wiser, right? But if you really look, we are going from past into present to future. And I would call that a horizontal movement.
Right.
Right? To progress and push our inner happiness level upwards, we have to move vertically. Right. And you see, climbing a mountain, for example, is vertical movement, takes a lot of effort.
Right.
And if you don't make that effort, you are not moving vertically upwards. That vertical movement upwards was called sadhana.
Okay.
Right? But another process is that somebody up there could throw you a rope and he can pull you up.
That would be the guru?
Yes.
That would be the guided guru.
Right.
Yes.
So there are multiple ways that you can vertically climb. But if you do not make that,
attempt,
then your level of inner happiness is not really increasing because you're just horizontally moving in time.
Right.
You're not vertically ascending to a higher state. People call it higher awareness, higher consciousness, enlightenment. These are buzzwords, but essentially the thing is that vertical progress is required.
Right.
Yep.
So everybody, I think in life, we just move horizontally and without even realizing, without the awareness that we need to move higher. So when people come, like for example, people like me, laymen who don't know anything, when they come to you for guidance, so how does the guidance start towards the higher movement? How does the guidance start?
So Guru Maharaj's main focus was that give them the process through which you yourself progressed. Share that knowledge, share that approach, share those techniques,
Right.
share also those hurdles that you encountered during the progress.
Right.
So I started inner peace set of seminars I did in Jaipur, Bangalore, and
Okay.
Hyderabad also. And basically the conclusion that Guru Maharaj came to about finding inner peace was that, number one, find the ocean of peace, not just a little bit here and a little bit there, a consistent and abundant peace. And that should be a duty of every human being.
Right.
He said like that should be the universal religion in some ways, right?
Universal religion to find peace. Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah,
Isn't it
right.
beautiful?
You know, if the world was much more peaceful place than it is, I mean, we all would be so much more blessed that
Definitely.
way, right? And so to do that, his view was that first principle
Right.
is that find peace inside.
Right.
Don't try to search for it outside because it's not there in the world. World is always changing. We
Right.
all know that. Every moment the world is changing,
Dynamically.
right? And hence, if you try to search for peace in a dynamically changing environment,
Yes.
you will only be searching like the deer, the mirage that just, so
Right.
it would not be found.
I think we will be lost when we're trying to find something like that.
Right.
We ourselves will be lost.
So then the question is, how do I find the peace inside if it is inside?
Right.
Right. So he said, you do for inner peace, you have to do inner act, like inner satsang, like antrik or so inward orientation and inward meditation practices, and that's what he prescribed.
Correct.
That's what he asked people to
Practice.
get into. And then he threw in even like almost like the icing on the cake. So he said that, okay, you can do that. And there are multiple ways to do that. So it's not one way. There are several ways to do inner, deeper. So he moved towards silent meditation on transcendental energy. But he also said there is an easy way, a really easy way. And that is to find someone who has been there and done that. So if, you find someone who has plenty
Right.
and who's ready to share, that's where you need to be, right?
So you need to find a guru, a guide.
So, yeah, I mean, he said, like, you don't even have to call me a guru, right? He said, I'm here. I'm ready to share. Be part of my family and enjoy all the goods.
Are we eligible to take in that knowledge? What is the eligibility of anyone to follow this guided meditation?
So just the fact that we just asking that question is that, okay, we are seeking. So I think the number one requirement would be that somehow, somewhere, we encountered a situation which said, okay, I need more consistent, more deeper, more abundant peace within me. Right? And I ought to figure out how do I do that.
Right.
And that is when people for almost the whole century were reaching out to him and the leaders who followed him. And they have been given freely this approach And with my eldest uncle, Dr. Brajen Kumarji, he was like, try it. If it works, great. And if it doesn't work, just continue your search and find a better way to be more peaceful. So
Wonderful.
very open, very flexible, and and I think it was a very simple and effective approach. And as we talked earlier, keep doing your everything you are doing. Right?
Don't stop all that.
Yeah.
You don't have
just
to
take 1 hour out of your 24 hours
Right.
and dedicate that for your own growth, your vertical growth. Use the technique and process, and if it doesn't work, continue your pursuit.
Wonderful, wonderful. Beautiful words indeed. And I would like to quote Guru Maharaj again. Peace is a place where there is an absence of good and bad desires. How to overcome negative thoughts when we start any spiritual practice in sadhana. This is All India Radio Rainbow FM 101.9. Heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me. But, we always have someone or the other to say something and pull us down. Don't you think ये गाना जो है कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे, लोगों का काम है कहना, हम सोचते हैं लेकिन इग्नोर नहीं कर पाते. कभी कभी ना पॉजिटिविटी से ज्यादा नेगेटिविटी जहन में बैठ जाती है. और दलाई लामा जी ने कहा है, लेट मी कोट हिम, said, do not let the behavior of others destroy your inner peace. Well, we understand that, but right here with me in conversation with Sri Sanjiv Kumar ji, who is a spiritual practitioner and meditation practitioner since 40 years and has been guiding others since 20 years. Sir, how to not allow others' opinions on us? How to probably be immune from negativity? Can you help us understand that?
So, I think we talked a little bit about this before.
Yeah.
There is a need to achieve a higher level of inner happiness and inner peace within yourself, to a point that you're so abundant with it that other things don't have a place.
Right.
Right? But if we step back, thousands of years ago in Upanishads, there was a model, a 5-step model. I call it the pyramid to grow vertically. So it talked about 5 steps in which you get to the ocean of peace, or to the top of the pyramid where, there is enlightenment, right? The higher you go, so the higher you vertically climb, the better you are in dealing with the outer situations in the world. So if we think about what happens when some negative circumstances, toxic people, toxic surroundings come around us, something happened in the world. The reaction is within, right? How we are reacting, because you will find that you react one way, I react another way, she would, react a third way. So we all react differently. Why? Because we react from our internal states. So I call, you have to vertically become more mature, more, vertical progress will take you a higher place. So your reaction to the things outside in the world, so worldly events and internal reaction, depends on where you are internally.
Right.
If, say, I was very self-centric at a lower state, then something happens, it's like, oh, that's not my problem, I have other things to do.
Right.
If I'm at a higher place, I would say the person needs help, and I would try to do what I can.
Right.
Right? Same way, when I'm at a lower state, I am more involved in the safety and survival, not in giving or loving or caring. Right? So the growth, people say it's spiritual, it's this or that. To me, better human beings have to vertically grow to make the world a better place, but themselves also feel better.
Right.
Because toxic people are affecting you because you don't have inner strength. Toxic people are affecting you because you don't have enough inner strength to deflect that energy that is coming to you.
So make yourself powerful with inner strength.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's how you can win over negativity.
So at least you can react to negative situations and people in a more positive way or a more mature way.
True.
And that makes all the difference. But Guru Maharaj, if I go, his approach was that you should be so strong, so powerful like he was, that people get affected by you rather than you get affected by them.
Probably people get more inspired by you to not cause or say anything.
Yeah, even in one of the interviews, somebody said, like, you are so even keel. And I said, well, at least meditation did something.
Yes, indeed. So
Right.
turn towards meditation and life will change is what you say.
So it is, again, as we were talking about, like, vertical progress is important for everyone, and peaceful existence within and outside is, if we look around the world,
Right.
we should be in a better place.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is to get to a higher state, pull everybody higher,
Right.
and not get into petty fights.
Indeed. We have anxiety, depression cases and a lot of mental health issues that have sprouted up or at least being identified nowadays. So, and I've heard you say in a lot of your talks that meditation indeed makes a difference. So, how do you think that someone turning towards meditation will make a difference in their lives to overcome mental health issues?
So actually, my grandfather wrote a 7-volume book on his experience through his whole process, and 28 chapters. I took one chapter on the mysteries of peace, right? And converted that into a talk about worry and anxiety, which in Hyderabad yesterday we had that event, right? And, so there were, interestingly, it was a small chapter, and I found like 7 or 8 techniques to tackle worry and anxiety.
Oh,
and I
okay.
don't think we have that much time, but
Unfortunately,
right?
no.
But I'll just say 2 things.
Definitely.
1, live in the present moment. Because if you are in the present moment, the worry and anxiety happens because you are dwelling in the past, or
thinking
you're
about
worried
future.
about the future.
Correct.
Right? What if this happens? What if that happens? So if you were to live in the present moment, the worry would not exist.
Right.
The problem is we have forgotten how to live in the present moment.
Absolutely.
And I think that is why a lot of people are moving towards meditation practices, because that's one way you could live in the present moment. So
Right.
initially you start, during the meditation you live in the present moment, and then it can go farther. But then if you go back to the old ages, there was another way that was very well documented, Yoga's Chit Vritti Nirodha. Now, throughout the world, people know yoga very well now, right?
Yes.
But Ashtanga Yoga by Maharishi Patanjali talks about 8 limbs of yoga.
Yes.
So those who are practicing yoga need to understand those 8 limbs. 4 of them are about meditative practices.
Oh.
And those 4 were the focus of my grandfather. So he said, yes, it is important to be physically fit. Yes, it is important to have, better breathing approaches and concentration and even behavior. But he said, if you were to do the other 4, the dharana, dhyan, and samadhi, and pratyahar, then you would be able to lead a better life, better behavior, better health, and so on and so forth. So he flipped it.
Wonderful.
He said, focus more on the meditative aspects of yoga. And Maharishi Patanjali himself said that the ceasing of the thought processes is where yoga is.
Right.
That is where you are completely devoid of anxiety and worry, because there is no thought. Because if there is no thought, you can't go in the back to dwell in the past. You can't go further because there is no such thing. Thought is taking us.
Be here right now is what. Sanjiv Kumarji, you have been actively participating in the social activities for the needy and for the education of underprivileged children as well. You've been supporting the children as well in a lot of places, and of course in the remote places in Bihar as well, I heard. And even during COVID times, you've been helpful in sending oxygen concentrators in our country. And more than all this, abroad in the United States of America, you've been keeping the culture of Indian traditions alive, all this. And I would just, I'm definitely amazingly inspired, but I want you to give a message to our listeners as to anything that you want them to understand, and one message that you want to give it to our listeners today.
So two things. One, make sure that you not only focus on the outer well-being, the material well-being, also focus on inner well-being, and for that you will have to do some inner cleansing. Number one, meditative practices. Number two is that we all need to get to a higher state, because that is where we will be better off, and we can make our environment, our community, our country, and countries, the world, a better and more peaceful place.
Wonderful, wonderful. If I want to know more about Ramashram, Satsang, Mathura, or if I am in other countries, well, because on News On Air app right now, our listeners are from every corner of the world. So if anyone wants to learn more about Ramashram, Satsang, Mathura, how do we get in touch?
So ramashram.com and ramashram.org are the websites, and we have started a new English YouTube channel, so find that. Absolutely willing to share everything and help everybody who wants to really help themselves and help the rest of the world.
Thank you so much, Sanjiv Kumarji, and it's been a pleasure. Every word, everything that you shared, it's indeed inspiring, and it's been a pleasure. On behalf of my seniors in All India Radio and myself, I thank you for coming into our studios on this beautiful day and taking out your time. Thank you so much.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is All India Radio Rainbow FM 101.9, and thank you so much, listeners, for being with us during this conversation. And here we end this wonderful time with a wonderful song. Stay tuned.